Tomorrow will be a huge and historical day for the UFO issue. It could play a pivotal role in getting us to the promised land. That is, UFO disclosure, or to once and for all debunking much of this UFO brouhaha that began to dramatically increase on December 16th, 2017, 6 years ago. The following clip is a portion of where Representative Eric Burleson of Missouri introduces an amendment to allow UFO whistleblower David Grusch to renew his security clearance.
He recently testified before Congress claiming that partial fragments and even intact vehicles have been found for decades by the federal government, our allies, and defense contractors. According to Mr. Grusch, objects and vehicles retrieved are of, quote, exotic origin based on the vehicle's morphologies and material science testing and the possession of unique atomic arrangements and radiological signatures. Mr. Grusch also told us that the U.S. is in possession of non-human spacecraft and dead pilots. And finally, Mr. Grusch told us that he has spoken with the intelligence officials whom the U.S. military had briefed on, quote, football field-sized aircrafts, that the U.S. government transferred some crashed UAPs to a defense contractor, and that the intelligence officials were also briefed on malevolent activity from extraterrestrial beings.
Yeah. That wasn't weird at all. Not at all. So I'm going to share with you some quote-unquote inside information. I was speaking to an individual who is in the loop, and this individual explained to me that there must be, or it appears that there's some kind of misunderstanding, because in actuality, David Grusch does not require that his clearance gets renewed in order to legally give information to members of Congress. All that's required is that he would need to get a temporary read-on, and as well as some papers being signed, and then he could give information to members of Congress that had the appropriate clearances. That's all I know about that. The following is a clip from Elizabeth Vargas Reports on News Nation, and it dropped on November 13th, 2023. And this is Representative Eric Burleson speaking about what he wants accomplished regarding speaking to Grusch personally, and also reading word for word the Intelligence Community Inspector General complaint that David Grusch filed.
I think that if we can get some specifics, some specific information about what programs that he was referring to, where the locations of these devices are, where the bodies are. So I just want the specifics. Now there is a chance that we might be able to get some of those specifics this Thursday morning. We have another meeting with the Inspector General in a SCIF, and I'm told that Grusch has signed a release to allow for his report to the IG to be released. It is uncertain whether they're going to give us the actual copy of the report or let us read it in the SCIF, or whether they're just going to give us a summary. I'm afraid it's the latter. I'm afraid that they're just going to try to give us a summary, which is not going to be acceptable in my book. I want to see the document. Okay. And then I want to be able to bring Grusch in to ask questions. And if we have time to read the document, we'll be able to ask educated questions about the contents and the work that he produced.
So David Grusch can provide the names of the programs and the locations of where they are, the labs and the facilities, where the devices are stored, as well as where the bodies are. He has all that information, as far as I understand, and he gave it to the intelligence community inspector general. And the intelligence community inspector general, Mr. Monheim, is going to be present in the SCIF on Thursday with Representative Burlinson and whoever other members of Congress are going to be there as well. And indeed, in Grush's most recent interview, he underscored that he knows all this information, but he also stated that, I'm pretty sure, in the July 26th hearing that was under oath. But anyways, let's get to a small clip of his most recent, interview, where he goes into knowing the very information that Mr. Burlinson wants.
But yes, certainly private companies were involved. The specific ones I did provide to the congressional committees and the inspector general, down to specific facilities I am aware of, down to the address, right, where they exist. And also I had the individuals that, firsthand worked on the program provide that disclosure and interview with the inspector general as well. So it wasn't just coming from me.
So in the opening of this video, I said that tomorrow is going to be a huge historical day for the UFO issue. And that on the one hand, it could lead us closer to the promised land, UFO disclosure. And I know some people despise that terminology, but I think that's just silly. But on the other hand, alternatively, it could lead us to a debunking of a lot of what has emerged since New York Times article in 2017. And the reason it could lead to a debunking is because now that this information is circulating more, it's getting into the craniums of our members of Congress, and they'll be able to do some of the legwork and do an investigation. And ultimately, I would assume, go to those facilities, go to those laboratories, those installations, and talk to more firsthand witnesses and so forth. Eventually, the truth will emerge, whatever that truth is, right? So we have two possibilities, essentially. Either the truth will emerge and eventually, and there will be more credence and justification to believe this is going to go further to the promised land of the disclosure, right? Or this will start to backpedal and it will implode. And we'll hear from members of Congress saying things like, we did the investigation, we looked into it, and ultimately it emerged that this is all a big misunderstanding. Now, I'll tell you right now, I don't believe it's going to be the latter. I believe it's going to be the former. That's my intellectual analysis. I know some people will say, no, it's not. You're just a silly believer. No, I'm actually calculating everything I've come across over the past 6 years and all of UFO history and the historical record. I think probability is that Grush is correct about a lot of the things he stated, and that there are secret UFO programs that are funded by tax dollars that have been insulated from the United States Congress and many members of our government, and even sometimes our elected officials, presidents, and so forth, and that there is a cover-up. And it's quite disturbing to anybody who cares about freedom, in my opinion.
I think that I haven't seen anything that's compelling me to believe that they're trying to deny us access. Now, to a certain extent, we've gotten information from the IG. We have gotten, obviously, the testimony of the whistleblower, David Grusch, and hopefully they'll be able to give us access to his report, and hopefully they'll be able to allow us to bring him into the SCIF. But if we continue, if, for example, they don't allow us to see the report,
right,
they don't allow us to have access to bring Grush into a SCIF, then I'm going to start raising alarms that something has been being hidden from Congress.
You know what that is. That's a disclosure alarm. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully, it doesn't go off. I want this to go smoothly. I don't want members of Congress to be stonewalled or to be given some kind of song and dance. Allow Representative Burlington, and I always think I mess his name up a little bit, but allow him to have access to the report from David Grusch. Allow him to have access to David Grusch and his SCIF. Allow him to do everything he needs to do to get to the truth so that we have a representative democratic government and not some kind of tyrannical control by people who don't want to follow the rules in the American way. But beyond that, in the June 11th interview with journalist Ross Coulthart, David Grusch made it very clear that the U.S. government has been leading its citizens astray on the issue for decades.
There's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral, and it's totally frightening.
In yesterday's Weaponized podcast, Jeremy Corbell goes into how David Grusch's lawyer, Chuck McCullough, has been taking on other clients that are, I would imagine, can be considered whistleblowers, just like David Grusch is.
Our friend Chuck McCullough, who's the former Intelligence Community Inspector General, I think he was the first one ever. He has taken on, from what we understand, some of these clients, I guess, and officially...
In addition to Dave Grusch, he's representing some other people.
Yeah, more than a handful, from what I understand. Yeah. So hopefully that process will bring forward what everybody's looking for, which is, let's find out if this is true. And the legislation, let's not forget that. If the legislation, which is soon, it's got to be determined soon, if they can shake up some of these private industry that are holding these materials and craft, then it's a new era. It's a new day.
Well, I'll close this video with Michael Colangolo's tweet. He wrote, quote unquote, "The Schumer Amendment and Controlled Disclosure." That is the title of Carl Nell's presentation at the Soul Foundation event, Saturday, November 18th. And of course, Carl Nell, former Army colonel, one of the key witnesses, in addition to David Grusch, he backed up David Grusch's story that there is a back engineering program and that there is a arms race between peers to understand how these technologies work and therefore to duplicate them and as a result have military dominance over the globe. Please do not forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You can become a patron. You can become a YouTube member. You can give me a one-time donation. All those possibilities can be accessed in the description box below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.